Gemba de Sanje Shindu Midepo, Drogun Namda Shin La Cheba, Yidan Gujo Renamen, Kani Andaya Mis. That's a call order. Sumba Cheda Chimi Sambalang, I said,
Nipa Gyabu Nagal Chow Mirikba. Nipa Gyabu.
Young Aja Chamber, you are Young Aja Gabu, Young Aja Chamber Patella. Send you good the Chebagang, Tenisa Din Lisha. Chedan soon be Shawanshan, Gan Yoba Mayin, who dig Carson Gresana, Kade Javoni, and Jidem Batam Jeju Gundang. Around Jan Yimbe, Onion Aja Chawa Riso Shanayang, and it immediately rigmaris.
So next comes the reason why it's inappropriate for a king to feel pride. Someone might say pride is appropriate because a king is a protector of his people and is autonomous or independent. The answer is that's not so. The verse here says that those who act at others' insistence are called fools in the world on this earth. There is no one else at all so dependent on others as you.
Oh yeah. Resources and Mindes never Chago Lega. Never Chago be there, Kanshi, Rangi Chayo Shindu. Rangi Chayo Shindu, Mr. Bar. Send you good Chaba Kang Batanis. Send you good Chaba Kang, said the Rangi Chayoba Tishindu, Mr. Bar. Send you good Chaba Kang Batani. Setting the Lumbo Shechara. Yaoyang Chawa Tamja send you good thing. Go on the Chedan to be Shawan Jan, Gan Meadow, setting the not Lisha. Chedan to be Shawan Jan, Gan Yoba Mayino, Sirigana, or Yaoyang Chawa Tamja send you shishing. Go on la Laba Izan, Chedan to be Shawan Jan, Shangan Yoba Mare.
So their explanation of that is that someone who does not do work that must be done, which he can do, but acts only at the insistence of others, is called a fool on this earth. Since a king's actions depend on the requests and insistence of others, there is no one else at all so dependent on others as you. Therefore, it is unjustified for you to feel proud. Those who act at others' insistence are called fools on this earth. That is, those who are ordered to do things and have to do them. And there's no one else than you who is so dependent upon others. So, for instance, it is not appropriate for someone who catches and frees dogs and monkeys for others, for the sake of others, to feel proud about it, because they're ordered by somebody else to catch these monkeys and dogs.
Javi Shanla maybe Shanla Marum Beach, Javi Jungabo, Tambo Jukase, Javi Shanla Shama Imba Druba, the Chimba Gaba, Transom Major Drum to Sumchet. That Tambo Javi Shanla Shama Imba Druba Tela and Sum Cherigana. Jidasu Jaola Ralab, Aja Chamiroma. Ani, I'll tell you about that. That's Jidasu Bajaola Ramale, Ralebe, Aja Chamiroma Tela. Suang Hala Rala, Jidela La Leshi. Rani Jijan Dixena, Tizu Jeme Sushi, say what this is. I dig it. Kadijidem Banana, Shenji never Suang, Jaola Raleba in bed. Ani Jidemba Chala never Chaba Jaola Raleba in bed, Aja Cheriso, Shena.
So then there's another number of different topics that follow here, thinking about how it's when kings are engaged in dharma and non-dharma, anti-dharma, or religious and irreligious behavior, and this has multiple subdivisions. The first is that it's inappropriate, improper for a king to have pride because the king depends upon others in order to serve as a protector for the world. And this is explained in verse 83, where it says, someone might say, pride is appropriate because the protection of his people against harm from others depends on the king. But the answer to that is that claiming that protection depends on me, you take payment from the people. But if you perform ill deeds or if you do negative actions, who is as merciless as that? There's no one equal to you in being merciless.
Oh yeah. 대중제매 시장 엄마들이 특별히 들어가는 것에 대중제매 수시에 세대 리바제비 자원 대당 총박이 아니 자와매 봐 수시에 매화래 매화타스 아니 가서 라니 지장 되잖아 아스나 지대반나면 송아 아니 알아라래서서 지대반라니 라망보 미신바 랭기레신 라망보 미신바 랭기레신 라니자 소제서 디바 망보 첸나데 치비체세데 라니지장 디체나 지단 라니 라레시 라니지자 디체나
So the verse says, if you perform ill deeds or negative actions in doing this, who is as merciless as you? And so the commentary says that who is as merciless as a king who performs negative actions, ill deeds? None. Claiming that the protection of his people depends on him, when his people do not make a large payment, he takes by force and himself performs many ill deeds, such as killing. He is like a bad physician who, greedy for money, does not relieve pain at once, but only does it gradually.
No, yeah, Bena, Membangamba, no Mambo Dene, Sumu Tamata, Michimba, Rimji Jimbashino, Napa, Ane Dunga, Tamata, Michimba, Sumu Tamata, Manjiba, Rimji, no Mambo Dene, Sumu Tamata, Michiba, Rimji Jimbashino.
So like a bad physician who's greedy, they don't give right at the beginning the medicine that would cure the illness, but they just treat the symptoms temporarily, and then because they want to come back and get more money, and then so only they prolong the illness of the sick person in order to extract more money out of them.
자오 디도 채남라 가데자와 참미나 치와 소소 교원이 탐자 송자 민주로 디바잖라 차바 마잖아 안 지된바 셴냠바 주와 연상 지된바 셴냠바데 수위치도 아니 어 차자바데 리소 셴나 디바자상.
So someone showing that it's improper for a king to impose a harsh punishment upon evildoers and consider it to be dharma in doing that. Someone might say, if wrongdoers are not punished, it is detrimental to others. Therefore, to protect the people, it is proper to exact punishment. And the answer is that's not correct. If people who do ill deeds should not be treated with mercy, all ordinary childish people would also not need to be protected.
Oh yeah. Do so do cheba na la sikala do chenam la chele do so so ani do cheba na la ani kade zawa chamina sa kade zawa chariba mayina 아니 디바 젠지 치와 소소 교원나니 디바 젠지 치와 소소 교원남 교원이 탐제 제유고나 수자 많이 봐 주그래 수자 많이 봐 주서 대나 디바 쳐봐 남라 사바양 아니 제와 쳐고래.
So here then it's regarding people who it is inappropriate to be merciful, if it is inappropriate to be merciful toward people who have done great wrongs, such as killing, then ordinary childish people would also not need to be protected with compassion.
현도나 총금바 맞아봐 배양 아니 총금바 주로 맨날 랑기 리당 안노 노송화 신도 자유장 안에 송화 차오 리도 젠데 송화 차오 송노.
So a king should be especially merciful to wrongdoers. Otherwise, although he doesn't have the name of being a brigand, like a fierce robber or something, he will be one. He will actually be a robber. A king must protect wrongdoers just in the same way that he protects his own body and wealth.
다 정말 자유 마루와 차차바 디바 민주와 가바니. 아니 나니 가와 제바이 윤이 칸도 매매주로 놀라서비 주남지 소나 멤버 지게 민 어디기 지구 장위 치르세다 그와 심장 지구 방남 장위 치르 디바자 차르 제베 겨울라 디바 민주대 담바남라 팬도바 슈비 치르세나.
So someone might say then that a king who punishes wrongdoers to protect everyone is not a wrongdoer himself because he is engaged in helping those who are good. The reply and then the reply to that is in the verse. There is nothing that will not serve as a reason for happiness. Reasons such as scriptural statements will not destroy demerit.
Oh yeah. Shena, Dani Gawa Jabai, Duni Kando Yemeju said, Chijiloto Shembe, Lo Chijiloto Shembe, Dani Gawa Gibi, Duni Kando Yameba Minjudes, Minjudes, Duni Kando Memejus. Only Casanyada Pasabala, Gawa Namjang, Dinin Dagi, Rugila Wonvi, Leso, she got a Sebichiro.
So there's nothing that through attachment to wrong ideas will not serve as a reason for happiness. There's nothing that through attachment to wrong ideas will not serve as a reason for happiness. So there's nothing, if you're attached, if you're extremely attached to erroneous ideas, then there's nothing at all that wouldn't serve as a source of giving joy to oneself if you're in that sort of state of attachment to wrong ideas. Those who enjoy killing pigs and fish think this is the traditional work of my caste.
Oh yeah, Nula so we do not just on a member me said Annie Castle. Chamsi danger number le Tendronami Jugudabi Chidu Ruby Jugudabi Sovichitu Drue Sajan Dipa Meadow Shivi Luna Ribatana La Sove Sovi Gunamji Sebi Jawala Jambatan. Teda Chumda Chawa Namji Sona Mimba Dibalan Gigi Seba Yaba Mindes.
So there are treatises. It says some deleterious Brahmin treatises, meaning texts that were composed by Brahmins, which are evil, that say that animals were created by the Lord of the world to provide sustenance, that animals were created for the sake of people's sustenance, and people might be deluded by those wrong scriptures. Even if they're scriptures, they're erroneous, and kill animals out of that misconception or being led astray by that. And if they think that that there's no sin in that, no negative action in that, then they're being drawn into doing evil deeds due to these specious scriptures and reasoning that they find in these evil scriptures.
Oh, Sona Mimbi Diba, Gigi Sabayaba Maidi, and a tender Sona Maimbi Diba Taya Bichil. Sena Kasangama Mashua, sure, some ne, and a Casa Sawashino.
So reasons such as scriptural statements, false arguments, and the like will not dissipate or destroy the limitless ill deeds of those who exert themselves to kill and who hold these wrong sort of philosophical ideas as well, wrong views. It is like thinking that one's undigested It was like thinking that one's undigested meal has been digested and eating more food.
Oh yeah. That you are chewing bagabala. Some maruba tarjane. Jidan Jong chewing bagaba. Lo pinzo than them be Jerry Sebe, Jidan Jong chewing be better. Jabadan Pamiji see in be chewing be Gunzano. That Tabo Maruba tarjane, Jidan Jong chewing bagabani. Yanda Sunje Jejawa, Kadesada Chewina. Nemo Songa Namla Jidi Chess Juma Yin. Oh, Jabi Jidan Jong Toriji doing bear. Chewina. Javola Cheshan Mugasosiana.
So then the next topic is that demonstrating that or negating the idea that protecting the world by harming, annihilating those who are unruly is itself dharma. Someone might say, since protecting his people is a cause for high rebirth and therefore a religious practice, dharma, a king needs no other practice. And the answer for that is, if giving proper protection is a ruler's religious practice, why would the toil of artisans too not be dharma or religious practice?
Oh yeah, that is la. Yanda Sunje Jeshawa, Kadesada China, say Gala, that don't go to say Levaki, Tepuaki, Jawoki, Jidan Yanda Basonga Chejang, Teda Chedo Shechawa. Kadesada la chesu juwa inas, Kadesada che inas. Shen suwi chi de kozen dungatang, ob chebatang. Nyomo songan namla yang, le teda chesu, jidi chesu juwa mayi de teda de chesu jugure.
So if it is the case that it's a religious, a ruler's religious practice or dharma, when, as a king who has paid his sixth, meaning getting the taxes, he gives proper protection to his people and is acknowledged to do so, why would the work of artisans who toil to make weapons and moats for others' protection not be a religious practice? It also would be religious dharma, would be religious practice.
Oh, then I tell me about my Juroset. Bena, Tonje Suvi, let me see no.
If one agrees with that, then there would be nothing at all that's not dharma or religious practice. The king is like a man hired to protect the town, like a night watchman or guardian.
Lord, you are looking to that there, but I was Sebe, Jidan Jong, Chairman be pennies. Oh, Jidan Sada Ralegi, Sada Teni Mete Berry. Tambe Jidan Gunjama, Siba Yini, Siba Shin, say, Dalo Pusum Sawadan, Dembe, Javi Sebe, and Jidan Jongwa Yinjang, and a Jawola Mabashawa Mare Sena.
So then the next point is that if a example for how it is that protecting the world here is sort of short for the people in the kingdom, out of attachment. If a king does that, even with the proper sort of mind, it's not dharma. Since, if he does it in an intelligent fashion, it's also not dharma. Since an intelligent king protects his people out of attachment, he is irreproachable, someone might say. The reply to that is, this example shows the ruler on whom the people rely is reprehensible. The excellent see attachment to existence as the mother of all those in the world.
Oh yeah. Sada Teni made it better, say, Jidan Sumade, Sada La Ra Legi. And this Sada Teni, and it Jabadan, Tameba to me, Shijuba Yizang, and it maybe Meadow. Tambe Casa Sada Teni made it better, Tambe Jidan Gunjama, said. No, they bet when a Chiji Maloba Sibi Papa Tambe. Eugene to Chiji Maloba Sibi Papa Tambe, Jidembanam Gebe, Geber Chebe, Jidemba Gunji Ma, Siba Yini, Siba Jidemba Geji Yang, Gendusina, Zawana Tunchimashino, Sebate, Deja, or so.
So if being a ruler on whom the people rely for protection is a source of arrogance and all kinds of recklessness, it is therefore reprehensible. The wise Aryas, exalted ones who see things without error, regard attachment to existence as the mother of those in the world because it produces them. And recognizing attachment to existence to be faulty, they eradicate it.
别那着光被创吧，着光把给创吧是他，在了哈江人当全部切边，没把切把洗了。
So an example that's given for this is like someone a trader who is in the wilderness, out in the wilderness, and charges an exorbitant price for things. That's reprehensible.
我的他，什么家把当盘面去吸引呗，全面被军产台了。 里面假设没到了，来了在外原民啦，生活保养、生活营养没一大，在外买了全民那谁干了？那在外当蛋白几天讲话，人家为了确实就入线呐，
So then the next point is that because it's a basis for arrogance and for carelessness, then this is the reason why it is not dharma. And so someone might say, because of his compassion, a king's protection of his people is his religious practice. The answer to that is not so. The sensible do not acquire kingship, since fools have no compassion. These merciless rulers of men, although protectors, are irreligious or not in accord with dharma.
Oh yeah, that is. Limi jasi mito la chudum la sowe lam sambo pone. Wanju tam la cha ba ki limbo yimbe ma de limbo yimbe ma sang do limbo mimba ai limbo yimbe. Jasi mito ba jasi mito la. Lende la mombi limbo jawa ye ba mina. Limbo la jawa ye ba mina. Jidian ji songwa boyang mi dabo.
So the sensible who have not foolishly turned away from good paths like ethical conduct and are not attached to power and wealth do not acquire kingship. Fools who are ignorant about actions and their effects have no compassion. Kings, these merciless rulers of men, although they are protectors, are irreligious, and kingship itself is a source of conceit and recklessness.
No. So
the example that's given for this is like the merciless minister of a cruel king.
Oh, yeah, that is it. That's what Transongi. Transongi Shaba good, Sama Mishapala, Transongi Shaba good, Sama Miru with Junzantang. Luigi Danger, Sama Cheba, Chidamba Devin, our Mepa Damba. That Tamo, Transongi Shaba good, Sama Miruma with Junzantella. Transonam Jaba, Kavar Shaba, Mayinde, Kangichina Tedala, Mendi Chaba Yeshiro. Oh, Transongi Chebi, Dangela, Garigi Chiji, and Chava Chajam. Jaola did to Miju Sheba so, Sava Chajans, Garigi Chiji, Sava Chajam, and Jaola did to Miju Sheba so Shana.
So then here the next point is that there are lots of different explanations which were made by non-Buddhist sages. They're called sages, given the name sages, but they teach evil things sometimes. So those are not authoritative, and that has multiple subdivisions here. The first one is that all of these explanations of these evil sages are not suitable to be taken as something that's authoritative. So here someone might say that the treatises by sages state that even if owing to the code of the royal caste, a king acts violently, he has not performed an ill deed. The reply to that is that sages' activities are not all actions that the wise perform, for there are inferior, mediocre, and superior sages.
Oh, yeah. 장소 남지 껴바고开셔바 마인데 세대 장소 남지 아니 단절에 셔바게 껴바고 아니 껴바고 장소开셔바 마인데 인생 가게 지나 장소 대다라야 아니 소면 등수요아래서 멤버단 등단 셔바 나줘봐 유비시 가게 지나 대다라 맨리 셔바 유시로.
So not all of the activities described in treatises composed by sages were performed by wise sages, for there are different kinds, inferior, mediocre, and superior sages. And
Oh, yeah. That car is so. Bena serva. Bena chanson kashi danjo la deja member job. Ani job shabana shire.
So, for example, there are some treatises composed by sages that recommend intercourse, sexual intercourse with those with whom sexual intercourse is improper.
Oh, yeah. Taniwa Luigi danjo samar cheba, jidan deving omeba tambani. Ngaji sada genamji, jidan putar jambate. 这对去了电南极，天上人的光把钱是，俺那叫我按照我南极路极，俺那电就钱嘛的钱呢，俺那几天把两边的账呗，俺那几天两边账呗，电就钱嘛一诺钱呐，哦。
Next comes the demonstration that there's no certainty with regard to worldly happiness. You can't take treatises on political behavior as authoritative. Here, the term it's being translated as social treatises, but this term refers to advice for rulers and worldly advice on how to get ahead, political advice, how to achieve worldly success and so forth. So because kings who took these treatises on worldly behavior to be valid looked after their people well, these treatises must be valid. But that's not the case. The verse here says, virtuous rulers of the past protected the people as if they were their children. Through the practices of this time of strife, it is now like a wasteland without any wildlife in it.
Oh, yeah. Luigi Danji Jesu Jambe, Jidamba, Jesu Jambe, and the Jidamba living oil mares. Oh, Casare, Kulin Joala Sovi. Sikan ngaji sada genamji said kuli jowa la so jawa namji ngaji sada gawa sambo namji jidamba puta jamba tada ki deshin gela se oh ngaji sada genamji jidam puta jamba te se gela se ani zidi chela damba namji tisa rida ju gamba tar jidam tomba chebe 确当没对比，但是确当没对比，但是他们满意。
So then the answer to this is that it is not the case that people will be happy by following these treatises on politics and political conduct, how to get ahead in the world. In the former virtuous and kind rulers, such as universal monarchs, who protected the people like their own children, increased happiness and prosperity. But those who rely on the practices of this time of strife, Kali Yuga, nowadays devastate the world, making it a waste without any, similar like a forest that's been emptied of all the wildlife by all the deer being slaughtered and so forth.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, these treatises that are incompatible with religious practice are not authoritative. So the example that's given is like there was a barbarian thief that stole unripe sugar cane and tried to get some sugar out of it.
가대 자위 라타라 밤네 라라 내바 체장 아니 체민바 매바 단절라 셰비치르사나
The next topic is showing how even harming those who are your enemies is non-dharma, is anti-dharma. And this is explained in verse 91, where someone might say that the treatises state that it is not irreligious, even if a king harms his enemies when occasions to do so arise. The answer to that is, or the reply to that in verse 91 is that if a king who seizes the occasion to harm is not doing wrong, then others too, such as thieves, have not done so in the first place.
가대 점 중 미리바 쳐발라 라니지 아니 라스 파바나 여기 라스 년비 자오라 세나 바바나 유바소지 년신 네바체비 자오라 가대 디바여 바마이나 세라 라스 년비 자오라 가대 디바여 미나 군보 현 남라양 디바데 탐보네 여바 마인바 군보 남제 노다 라스 님바당 님바탕부 임비체세 군비 자유 군보 라스 님바데 치 임비체세 나라와 군보 남제 노 라스 탐바데 탐보당 자유 군보 라스 님바데 치 임비체
If a king who seizes the occasion to harm any enemy or anyone else that has acted improperly by beating them with sticks and the like is not doing wrong, then others too, like thieves, have not done wrong in the first place. A thief finds an occasion to strike at someone rich first, and the king later finds an occasion to strike back. Finding an occasion to strike is explained as finding an occasion to harm someone.
맨날 름보 가지기 자부시와당 아니 자부시는 세신 라니지 자시 순외 아니 디시 미데바 토마종와 대단 치마라 미데바 토마종와 신호서.
The example that's given for this is that when a king died, a minister killed the young prince and took the kingdom for himself, which brought him many undesirable consequences.
단지는 가와텔라 용어시와 던지 주면 봐. 아니 던지 주면 봐 tel라. 차소 달라 도바고 용동 쳐봐 마이나. 용어 다장 용도바 처반년도 삼삼지시 가데 용어 자오 판바 쳐봐데 다 요 tel라데네 아니 노토진 자오 판바 쳐봐라 때는 노토진 자오 가월 쳐와다 자위 쳐도 용어 신나 토르스 저에 자오 요라 가와 쳐오 신나 자오
So then the next point is that dying in battle is not a source of being reborn into a good rebirth, pleasant rebirth. And someone here might say, by defeating the enemy in battle, one acquires wealth and pleases the king. And if one dies for him in battle, one will go to a high rebirth. Therefore, a king should take pleasure in warfare. The reply to that is, if giving all one has for liquor and so on is not an offering, why consider it an offering to give oneself in battle?
Oh yeah, that day la, 가서를 생각하심. 차소달라 도박꾼, 치다를 창당, 양보당, 아니 비면서 달라 도박꾼. 용서 동화대 아니 담반예와 샤바 그 샤바 마이나 샤바 마이시 소놈장 아니 멤버 대신 소놈장 멤버 대신도 세오 창소달라 도바고 용동 샤바 마이나 용어 초신 안바 다장 세가라 아니 용어 다장 용동 와지 용어 초신 안배 다장 용서 동화 담반예비 샤바 원양도 아니 샘섬이 준장 강기장 대 안에 토르스 주와 말했어. 토르스비 가서래. 토르스비 주와 말했어.
So if giving all that one has for liquor, gambling, and women is not an offering that pleases the excellent, and if it is also demeritorious, why consider giving one's own life in battle out of anger and greed an offering to please the excellent? For what reason would one take high rebirth through this? It is not feasible.
So
the example it's given for this is like a shepherd's wife who showed her body to her father-in-law.
Oh yeah. That's what Jabi Georgia. Jabi Georgia Ribani say. Jawaji then Gonjala Gonga Yoba Mayina. Guniti Dani Madan Sushi Gawa Juru say. Ani Jabo Jidan Tamja Jugo Yimbe, Ani Jawola Gawa Riso Shena.
So thus, the next point is that it's appropriate actually to be for a king to feel disheartened. A king should actually feel disheartened at being a king, and this is explained in verse 93. Someone might assert it is reasonable to like being a king because a king is the guardian of all his people. Reply to that is that you, the king, guardian of the people, have no guardian yourself. Since your guardianship does not release you, why would you be happy? Who would be happy in this condition?
Oh yeah. Jawo Jidan Gonchalas, Javoni Jidan Jugun Yimbe, T. Jesu Tambale, Jawi Jesu Tambala, Miriba Pane, Ribilela Jugo, Jawo Chela, Jesu, Chela Jesu to be Gun, Kanga Yoba Maris. Maina, Guemeba, Casarim, Guemeba, Gujipana. Tarkujina, Gumba Gujipana, Nebe, Jabarayan to Chushi. I need to grant a Gurman by Yinza, Jabarayan to Chushi. I need Tomba Botan Treve, Landogina, Tomba Botan Treve, Gurney Toba Tea, Danging as long as Tunga Matansing, Suma Yina, Jasitobe, Sushi Gawa Churu, Gawa Miriso.
So since a king is the guardian of his people, they follow his instructions, giving up unsuitable activities and engaging in suitable ones. However, you, the king, have no guardian, and living in a morass of corruption without any guardian, your actions are arbitrary. Because you have guardianship yet have no mentor, the causes of suffering and bad rebirths hold you fast and have not released you. Therefore, who would be happy about gaining kingship? It is unreasonable to be happy.
Oh, be Pajele, Didar, Jungi, Tela Jana Miton, Yeshan. Oh, the Dongdan, Trodan, Grandan Trava, Gawa Mirishi Shaja Ruan, what's a Dongdan, Grandan, Trodan, Gawa Mirishi Shaja Sharuan Travo. Bena Gundin, Nadian Gurma, she Chala, so was Cheva, Gawa Sambashino.
So there's a variant reading in the text. The reading that's given here is using a past tense, but there's another way, different reading in, I think, in Chandrakirti where it's present or future tense, but it doesn't make that much difference for the meaning. But in any case, it seems appropriate also to say it is unreasonable to be happy at being a king because the causes of suffering do not let go, and because you're without any friend or guardian yourself as a king. And the example that's given to illustrate this is it's like a senior monk who doesn't have a superior but enjoys the homage that is paid to him.
Kade cheba shenbi jawola chaba mechula. Cheba chabo jang la xiang chaba jesu zhube. Cheba chabo jang du chari so sina. Cheba chabo jang du chari so si chaba de cheba chabo yeme la yon za cheba chabo jang du chari so xiana.
So the next point is that it's inappropriate to have a strong attachment to one's rule or kingship. Someone might say, since a king whose punishments are mild does not become famous, while one who punishes harshly is famous even after his death, it is appropriate to give harsh punishment. The answer to that is that though a king is famous after his death, it will bring no benefit. Do you, being worthless, do you, being worthless, and those who cook dogs, not have notoriety?
Oh, yeah. 11节所查拜原来的开发的这些穷呢，是吧？在他这讲是，在他这讲是，叫我希望做了，是我呢，这的，这些穷呢，在他这讲，叫我希望做了，查拜。你把脚把送去，原来这样没穷哦，是讲了，叫我希望做了，查拜原来这没穷。 卡的，茶杯里边吃没吃不，卡的里边吃么出了钱呢？去去现金拿出吧了，烧完了，原来没把汤，吃吧了，去呢，鸡蛋但把你茶把全部记得没的。 但那大来说，对呗，吃吧茶吧吃完没人烧，这个呢，全人没当记在了，茶吧全部记得没，
So if posthumous fame brought some benefit, that would be all right. But even though a king is famous after his death, it brings no benefits, such as the elimination of the negative actions, the ill deeds that they performed. If fame could wash away the stains of wrongdoing, why would you, because of your worthless actions, like seizing others' wealth, and those who cook dogs, because of their, translation says awesomeness, it should be something like frightfulness to dogs, not enjoy great fame. Therefore, if one is interested in one's own good, it is not appropriate to punish harshly.
Oh yeah, 배나 충미 부모 시위로 아니 저바 충미 치리체 지바 통하나 부모 현시 现是大将对待于交把的单位主肉，伢们按照少当招我切把提醒度，假如差别阶段对把切把呀太当招哦。
So the analogy that's given for this is some woman thought she saw a rich woman's body being given an expensive cremation, and she thought, I will be rich too, and killed herself. A king who performs negative actions for the sake of fame is like that.
Oh yeah, 但你话日记吃把嘎巴拉是的，是吧？日记吃把嘎巴拉，假如赛季吃把嘎巴，假如咱们去吃把嘎巴，这个状元来季假如是就要嘎巴，什么也别难呢？假如赛季吃把嘎巴太了。 看在规矩王就你说那么去太一些，另外王就带没些，就把你把没弄，我这个看着送过来的，说了日当单比家不听你，家日当单比家不听你，家于不听你，家到了家到讲完了，家到了越急，然后先明白，俺那吃不着说，
So then the next point is that it's a negation of arrogance due to one's caste, one's lineage or caste. And the first point of that is that it's a refutation or a way of rejecting the idea that one should be haughty or proud of being a prince. Someone might say, a prince of royal caste is fit to rule while others are not. Therefore, pride or arrogance is appropriate for such a person. And the reply to that is it is not. When all power and wealth are produced by merit, it cannot be said that this one will not be a basis for power and wealth.
Oh, yeah. 这把明的，看着规矩王就你，看个菜，规矩假设给王就你了，俺那老家把假设给王就你了，老家把的，让个菜俺妈给说那么几把银把提菜啊，身边的呢叫俺那样，王就来带把马银弄噻，王就给推带，俺就来带那出把马热噻，俺就来带把没弄，先叫把也把没弄噻，
So when the enjoyment of power and wealth of kingship is produced by merit, here merit, which is the positive karma that you produced in your previous life, it cannot be said that any particular sentient being will never in any of their lives have that wealth and power. It is therefore not appropriate to feel proud, since power and wealth belong equally to all who create meritorious actions, meritorious karma.
소남지 내전 군지 투몽와 임바레 투몽와 임베체레 베나 솔로바 군지 투몽와 임베 트바 메르바 시노.
So an example that is given for this is like some kind of skill that a person can learn and which belongs equally to everyone who can learn it.
Oh yeah, 다들이 다 자리를 잠지 트바 가바 되라. 토마 메바나 릭소소 내가 매바탕 리시 예배 오니 자르스 내가 매바 다 담보네 토마 매바나 리소소 내가 매바 되라 소위 탑소 쫙라양 지대나니 리시 예 테네 섬제 탐제라 릴레 여와 요마인 강기실이 자식 좀이 최니 자식 좀이 최니 자리 코나래 세지 리셈 마리다 제리라 소와시 샤숨라 민베 야리 코네 안에 자식 차고에 리지 트바르소 샤나.
So the next point is a rejection of the notion that one is appropriate to have pride by being born as an aristocrat, someone of the warrior caste or in the aristocracy. That has multiple divisions showing that there's no certainty about castes or class that one is born into, because beginninglessly there's the caste or class changes, and that so the first point is made in verse 96, showing that beginninglessly the various classes and castes are not fixed in any way whatsoever. And so someone might say, since the practice of kingship is only explained to those of the royal caste or the aristocracy, but not to the other three, that refers to the there's the Brahmins, merchants, and the worker class, or the lowest worker class. Thus, the royal caste or aristocracy alone should rule. Pride because of caste is appropriate. The answer to that is, in the world, caste is determined with regard to out of the main means of livelihood. Thus, there is no division among all sentient beings by way of caste.
Oh yeah. 나데라 가서래 세나스 오니지 릭소소 왕야와 요 말에 스리시오데 까와타미 미남나 아니 까와타미 다 제좀 못샤요 지디 지신 일에 총마 아니 랑그 유지 아니 랑리지 여지 아니 지사 싸워 쳐봐 주주단 덴바 감사라발라 미덴바 다 포면 안 보면 봐다 드리송어와 랑그 여전 주주단 대신 아니 나가라 좋아 가위 세전 감사라발라 미덴바 포면 안 보다 차와 일라 다 되네 림기 감지세라 슈네 아니 가서 포면 안 보태 포면 안 보채베 입타대바 주로 되네 안에 지금 지라차네 안에 개월 중화 두송고 안에 집이 깨내주 중화 주도 되네 소조기 아니 가가 사소를 소조그 깨지 마지막 렘바 다들 마음주어리 했다 소조그 깨지 마지막 렘바 쏘라 유배 소위치도 미遇了爬爬西是看了，但蛮不过找不也过来提赛的，没遇了爬爬西，据说爬我去，送我了个性，来的开朗巴拉，俺你嘛也是些差说，
So the castes are not distinct. Here it says by way of their own entity. I would alter that to naturally or intrinsically. Castes or classes are not separated or differentiated naturally or intrinsically. Humans of the first era were born at the beginning of the human period in the world, were born miraculously from mind, were had miraculous births and things that they produced, were able to produce whatever they wanted just by thinking of it, and their bodies were luminous in nature. They had miraculous powers and could travel in space. They lived on just joy as was their food, and they didn't have male or female sexual organs. Later, as they began to eat coarse food, they gradually developed different shapes which were determined by their male and female organs, and then by coming together in sexual intercourse, birth from the womb came about. Then, because they were hoarding food and stealing and so forth, that sort of thing began. Oh, to protect against stealing, a man, it says here in his prime, is really someone out of the middle of the group, was appointed by the majority of the community to guard the fields.
That's right. Oh, yeah. That is it. I'm a giver to tenants or the station. That is Sasos. That is the Matuna. Tenant on 2 and Dabata. Ambo 2 and Dabata, Gadu and Juba, and it Tone each cho, each city choas, each cho, city chobatella, and it Tamsili down. Jayu Gashi Chebala, and it Jayu Chitabana, Gashi Chebala, Jewi down. Simo la Sawa Lang, Abala Joa Tani, Marisha Tabe. 아니다. 민타베 소위소 민자비 소조라 지단디니 리시 스탠바세 소위 탑소 조라에 지단디니 리시냐 리시냐 바테나 섬제 탐제라 오다 텐디기 왕귀 만도 오니지를 소소와 요 말에세 야 바테나 섬제 탐제라 오니지 소소를 왜 릴레체위 예완이 여바 많이 노.
So again, to protect against stealing the food, a man was selected out of the midst of the community, and the majority of the community appointed that man to be the guardian of the fields. And thus, those who agreed to do this sort of work were known as the royal caste, kshatriyas, or the aristocrats, is a rough way to translate this. Kshatriya means protectors of the field. Those who wished to subdue their senses left the towns to do ascetic practices and came to be called Brahmins. Those who carried out the king's orders were called the official caste, kayastas or official caste, and those who were put to menial work like plowing the fields were known as the commoners, common caste. Thus, in the world, caste was determined with regard to the main means of gaining a livelihood. But there's no innate division among sentient beings based on castes, which distinguishes them intrinsically. That is, the castes are not intrinsically distinguished, differentiated, because sentient beings, they come into all of these different castes at different times, so the sentient beings don't have some intrinsic caste.
Oh, yeah. That benefit me, Chewe Pumba Shinose, Transit and Punamda, that in the so Nanga Jiminja Wagger, Annie, or Pumba Soso Mentawa Nasin Chani, Jiminja or Chewe Pumba Shino, Silishote.
So the example that gives for this is like the way pots are distinguished by their contents. They contain different things, and thus the pot is given that name according to what it's containing.
Oh, yeah. Tena Chansong Chevi Danju Laja, Jari Tsewa Chaja, Chimimbab, Deba Shindu Miri Sose. Chansong, Chamsi Chevi Danju Tera, Jari Tsewa Chaja, Chimimba Meba.
So thus, it is very wrong to accept the statements in these treatises that were composed by these evil sages that say that even if here it says king, but in the text it says a warrior, or someone in the warrior caste, if the person in the warrior caste uses violence, it is not irreligious.
Oh yeah, that is. Rishi Yebe, Oniji, and it Jarusanga Meba. 다지라 오니지를 요매 봐서 나 신전에 어르시 예배 오니지 자르서 요매 봐 대지 신도人와다 메모남이 요와데 대지 자시 세자와 르라가야 요마인 어디기 가데 미남라 르민자와 시요바 대지 오니지를 타다봐 여도세나 다 르민자와 요바인자 대니지 오니지를 타다봐 여도세나
So then the next point is that this aristocracy or warrior caste, it's not a person does not intrinsically or naturally belong to it. There's no certainty with regard to that because there are 4 different castes or classes. And here someone might say, since there are 4 different ancestral lineages among humans, then the castes differ intrinsically or naturally. In that way, the answer to reply to that is, since it was a very long ago when they originated, and women's minds are fickle, there is no one from the caste known as the royal caste or the aristocracy or the warrior caste. You could translate that too.
Oh yeah, 대라 가르쳐 버려서나 파다 마타라 기비. ringwa chen ye ga de ngwa chen ji ye ga de an ji de na ri shi se da ja ri la so ri shi ye wa chong wa ne ani o de ji xin du ren wa dang me mo na mi ye wa de se de yu de xin du ren wa dang me mo pi me nam ji yi ge wa xian le xin du ye wa de生命结果现在信徒要话的军政体系家里希望协调话人来说说我讲刚要要把马云呗如今就我家产品少谁干了贴近我家人些话人来干要马云是对吧人
So the reply then, or the explanation of this is, it is very difficult to find anyone whose caste or class is fixed or certain because of being born from parents of a pure caste or class. Since the division into the 4 castes occurred very long ago in the world, and women's fickle minds have turned towards other men, there is no one who definitely belongs to a caste, definitively belongs to the caste known as the aristocracy or warrior or royal caste. Therefore, pride on account of one's ancestry is unjustified.
Oh, yeah. Bena, 참새 가지기 침도 세지 지루 담. 뒤rum보는 침지 다보 양. 두마 패신. 지루자 민족와 표와 신호.
The example that's given is someone left a golden water pot in a Brahmin household for safekeeping, and then in the long period that followed, the owners of the house changed many times, and the pots changed too.
Oh yeah, that is my most enjoyable profession. That's why the good job we like that is to do a Japanese. 가대 레지 마르장 야르세자 주나니 레지 만장 참선이 강거주와 멤버섬 가대 야르지 야르스 민주나 지구 좀이 레지 야르스 주르잖아 야르스 주르잖아 야
So the next point is that it's not rejecting the idea that one becomes a member of the royal caste through the action of through the activity of guarding the populace people in the country. Someone says that if one does not become royal through caste, one becomes a member of the royal caste through one's work of protecting everyone. The answer is that even if one of common caste, through his work, could become of the royal caste, one might wonder why even a commoner should not become a Brahmin through his work.
아니 마르장 자리세자와 주나 가데 레지 마르장 자리세자 주나니 리제 담발라서베 참지 레체와 니지장 마르장 아니 참시 참세 굉장히 큰거 좋아 멤버들 아니 누구 그래 멤버 섬데
So here, if by doing the work of the royal caste, such as protection of the people, if by doing that, even people of commoners of the common caste could become members of the royal caste, one might wonder why even those of common caste should not become Brahmins by doing the Brahmin work of the Brahmins, such as reciting the Vedas. Thus, it is wrong to think that one belongs to the royal caste because of one's work or actions. So, for example, one speaks of a boat going to the far bank, that bank of the river, and coming to this bank of the river, but neither this bank nor that bank of the river exist intrinsically.
Tena tripa gaba tang, tena jayu lomba chenpo chari ba gaba ni yubin, yimi me tangpo jayu tula baba na jiwo pawo jena la sayo wanyu gwenye ba nonchi chenpo chen yin ba tripa gaba ba tela. Jawo dila wanju tar, gimba yaba ma yin na, shenji tendo kiawa ni sushi chiman jomba che. 자위 자식이 안주 첨부 뒤라 바와나 저 파워체라 롱제라给你呗 아니다 출발했으나
So the next point is multiple subdivisions in the outline here. Which the basic one being that showing different methods for getting rid of negative actions that one does as a result of one's birth in one of these castes. And then the first subdivision of that is that showing that it's inappropriate to have pride in one's caste out of the things that one's able to enjoy, wealth and so forth, by taking the wealth of others by a ruler. And so here it says, one might assert, through the power and wealth of kingship, it is possible when the time is right to distribute possessions and so forth to a great many people. Therefore, pride is appropriate. The answer to that is a king's ill deeds cannot be distributed like his wealth. What wise person ever destroys their future for another's sake?
Dibala wanju tar gnewa anju da gnewa maimbe se jawo dila wanju da goba yoba maina dibi jebu ran khone nyong gona xianji tendo gowa chung ani kasere gowa chung kyawa suji rani jiden chiman jombar chede ti ngotsa waru ti tuba meriso se gana xianji tendo kama kyawani suji chiman jombar che se.
So while it is true that a ruler that has all of the wealth and possessions can distribute these possessions that he accumulated over a long period of time, a king cannot distribute the ill deeds, the negative actions that they created in connection with them in the way that he can distribute his power and wealth. When one alone must experience the effects of their ill deeds, what wise person would destroy their future lives on account of something trivial for someone else's sake? Shame and not pride is appropriate. So the example that's given for this is when a buffalo is killed, though many will eat the sacrifice, the animal that's been butchered in sacrifice, the ill deed, negative action accrues to the killer alone.
Oh yeah, that's enough. You want to 자오기 롱바 첨보방 아자 첨보 차리바 가바텔라 왕주 기정 아자니 냠나 차바라 파바이 바로 뉴된 다자데 담비니라 미네소 왕주 첨보라 네베 아자 차와를 소시나
The next point is that that a king it ought to eliminate their attachment, a great pride and arrogance in their caste or their class. And so someone might say, since one lives with great power and wealth, if one is a king or in the aristocracy, pride is appropriate. The answer to that is, pride caused by power and wealth does not remain in the hearts of the wise. Once one has looked at others with equal or superior power.
Oh yeah, that one you jing I done it, Yamna Cabra Papa Yin said the Carson Wolosena, Jasila saw one you give me. Geba, Dani Shana put the Chiba Chambage, Happen Ajasang. Randa one you Yambatang. Rana Chabado Papi Nuwa than Dembe, on you Pusun Sawa, Tawa Chade, Sikanda, Tanyamata Sungur, Tawa Chades. Paro Nunden Chade, Paro Nuwa than Dembe, on you Pusun Sawa, Tawa Chade. Tedal Chana, Tulu Leba Doshin, Sera, Tulu Leba Doshi, Tamba Yin, Tamba Yilang, Maja Mineso.
So regarding pride, which is caused by power and wealth of kingship and so forth, which that kind of pride thinks I am better than others. This is a type of pride which is the pride of superiority, thinking one is superior. One must look at those with equal power and wealth as well as others much more mighty than oneself, who have superlative power and wealth, someone even more wealthy than oneself. Having done so, pride will not remain in the hearts of the wise, who understand how to analyze in detail the way that things really are.
Oh yeah, I didn't take a Carson. Bena Thompson was in Chuma, Suji Tina, Madaji Tina, Madawa, Jayuzumi Koto June, and Shanji Sindrocha Matove, Angaji, Tuba de Yabashino, Tuba Yabashino.
The example that's given there was a Brahmin named Vasudhara. Who his wife was proud of her body, and this proud lady was made to join the retinue of a king's queens, and seeing the ladies in waiting caused her pride to diminish.
Oh yeah, that didn't cause it. Oh, Yamashino, Ludi Mizanwaya, some chashing. Lula Sebi, Yama Shechadi, that Lu Mizabadang. Mizame Rashin to Shewa Chashin. And Lila Sebi Neva, Sebagi, and Lila Sabaki, Sebagi, Neva, and Shewa Chades. Lame Chanju Dula each, Tedaki Neva Shet, Lame Chanju Dula, Tunshaji, Dadan Dagi Tripa Pamachan, Dala Chabadan, Dala maybe Ajadam, and Daguala maybe Aja Pamachas, Dadan Dagi Tripa Pamachan.
So there's a summary verse at the end, summary stanza saying, thinking about the impermanence and uncleanness of the body, understand the faults of attachment to it, make effort to achieve unsurpassable enlightenment, unexcelled awakening, by give up pride in both I and mine. So here, these objects, our bodies, by recognizing they're impermanent and unclean, we can eliminate the fault, understand, know the fault of being attachment and craving for them, and then get rid of arrogance and haughtiness, and pride, which focuses upon oneself, I and mine.
Oh yeah, that any or Digi any changes of a jabal Shija number level Shivala, that's about Tijil Bomb, Tatamba, Grabji, Shiwat, Tatawacha, that's on the Tata she would depart time, but that of Jangawani, any Jusum Gene, any Jabala loves a Shabala, she that day and Jackie, Shula Karetavare, a Jew Chungudan, and all console. 충분한 통문을 남냠수 연주다. 그런 통문을 남냠수 연주. 또 세가나 세네. 지지로 시세부터 냠수 연주 다지 주라 두 스테네. 다 이와 주바섬지 저발로 두샤바다. So
then finally comes the chapter title. This is the fourth chapter of the 400 on yogic deeds, showing the means to abandon conceptions of a self. And then there's the commentary as well, title of the chapter in the commentary. That concludes the exposition of the way in which one should eliminate the four forms of erroneous idea, four forms of error, erroneous thinking that that which is permanent thinking that that which is impermanent is permanent, thinking that that which is thinking that that which is actually suffering is in fact happiness, thinking that that which is impure is pure, thinking that that which is actually devoid of a self is possesses a self, and implicitly in the course of this exposition is taught the means by which we can develop the attitude of a person of intermediate scope, which recognizes all of the faults of samsara and develop as a consequence wish to achieve liberation from samsara. And that all of that, of course, that serves as a foundation for the development of bodhicitta, which is the entryway into the Mahayana path, which is then introduced here in the 5th chapter.
Oh yeah, Midaba Tara Sheba, Ane do Chungudan, Tumula, Lotuche, Mizanwa, at Anet Mizanwa, Ranshindan, the Tini Castle, Tatu, or Teshebaki, any Dawata Digi, Jinda Tumula, Lozuma, Tatusma, Shura Shagu, Tandata, she would take it.
So those things which are taught then about understanding gross impermanence, the disintegration of our lives in the case of death, that of course is common to the person of lesser scope, the person who is striving for just a good rebirth as a foundation. And then there's basically grosser and subtler levels of all of these things to that can be applied in some cases to the person of lesser scope who is simply striving to achieve rebirth in a happy form of existence, or they can be understood in conjunction with the person of intermediate scope who develops renunciation of samsara and is attempting to achieve liberation from samsara entirely. So these 4 topics that have been covered in the first 4 chapters are applicable to both stages of the first 2 stages of the path, the stages of the path which are common to the person of smaller scope, as well as the stages of the path which are common to the person of intermediate scope.
Oh yeah, then you want to some get a job of Shabala, or you turn down, Jibi, you won't buy a touch Shabatan. You won't give me about the launch Shamba Power, Lamjula, Nuru Loba, or Tap them by Tatambola, or long. Telash, Lushun Shabal, Lieutenant Damba. That Tela Tobja Devi Chawa Damba. Dan Cherka, this subject Marchega, that Tambo Toja Devi Chaba Chawa Damba, Tela Toja Devi Sanjagi Chawa Damba. Oh, Tela Yang, Sanjagi Devi Chabadan, T. Devudan, Chuachushi, Len Lundu Madamba, Kunjami Betuchi, Miruma, Teyubena, that Sanjagi, Tambo, Sanjagi Devi Chabati, that Dimbare.
So then this next chapter, chapter 5, or it's the 5th exposition actually, is showing the way in which we first generate aspirational form of how having developed the engaged or active form of bodhicitta. The active bodhicitta, one engages in the practices, trains oneself how to study and train in the practices. That has 4 subdivisions. We won't go through all of the topics in the outline here. The first portion of this is the main explanation of the main body of the text, and then within that there's subdivisions showing the greatness of the Buddha, which is the result that one is attempting to attain through the practices of the Bodhisattva path. Within that there's an exposition of the greatness of the Buddha and showing the different factors of the special features of the activities of Buddhas, the results of those, and then showing how it is inappropriate to consider the fact that the Buddha declined to refer to 14 questions on one occasion. He declined to respond to them. Using that as evidence that the Buddha is not omniscient is improper. That will come later. So the first of these is the showing the special features of the activities of Buddhas.
Oh yeah, that's it. Sanje ji zabi khaba de la. Sanje nam ji yo wa ni gyume ka ya yue me de. U jang sam jan nam la ni. U jang sam jan nam la ni. Me la khona. U jang sam jan nam la ni. Me la khona yang da ju. So di khar so ngar shebe leba sheba rimbo che khaba ram. O da membi ri jan, tiba membi ri jan. Nam Koala Jana Tabatun Nishin, Staya Contour, Rabji Tamboshi, Membi Janam, Koala Jana Tabatun Nishin, Tibachimbi Janam, Ane Samjan Dumajina, Mississippi, Ninja Chumbo, Jade, Sanja Tendu Nivi, Dida, Kala Nye Jana, Only Sanja Leso, said, what did him but it, Sanja Namji, Sanja Leso, taking the suggestion art, Tuji can be drawn, Malibi Tendo, Samji Mijabi Zaba Shite. Or Tuji can be good under draw Malibi Tendo, Samji Mijabi Zaba Shite, Didara, Sanja Namji, Lunga Yusumji Yoa, Wasumji Yoani, Samjela Pembi Gumeva, Gaya Yoba Mendes. Yeah.
So this first topic has been, we mentioned already that the special features of the preceding good, precious explanations through this kind of exposition of these subjects that have been taught in the first 4 chapters or expositions, those of the Hinayana disposition feel aversion for samsara and they seek liberation. Those of the Mahayana disposition or Mahayana lineage, having developed great compassion, seek Buddhahood. And then one might say, well, where are the causes for this found? The reply to that is in the Buddha. And the question then arises, what is a Buddha like? And the reply to that begins with verse 101. Not a single movement of Buddhas is without reason. Even their breathing is exclusively for the benefit of sentient beings.
Oh yeah, the Hasore Sanja Namji Yoani, Jumekaya Yaminde, Sete, Yoani, Sanjela Pembi, Jumebakaya Yoba Mainde, study thing as the Javi Doilun de Chane. You said Jadon Bato Mebata, Chuji Javi Shabji Tina Chung. Samjanya wa tamje siwa ki dungwa meba chana dawa nyong se an kula you said Jadon Bato Mebata. Church Javi and Shabji Tuna Chunde, Sanjanya or Tamje, and it's Siwa Juatan, Tanyawan, Siwa Juata, Dunga Meba China, Dawa Yong Shavatan. Jaya Goi Temdi Shabshate, Goi Temdi Shazade, Milo to be Mikanchi Tang, me longer to be me Kanchi Tang. Now I might do Yambaki, now I might do Grimmy Sonam Chung, Teta Tamjaki, and a Midan Dabata, now at Topa, and now at Topa to J. Sumbataro.
So this, then one might say, or here it says that such a supremely compassionate person performs inconceivable activities for the welfare of all sentient beings without exception. Buddhas make no movement of the three doors, meaning their body, speech, and mind, the activities of their body, speech, and mind. There's not a single one of them that is not for the benefit of sentient beings. The king of meditative stabilizations, meditative concentration says, countless hundreds and thousands of rays come from the soles of the feet of the king of the teaching, the Buddha, cooling sentient beings in all the hells, referring especially to the hot hells, freeing them from suffering, they enjoy bliss. And then likewise, when a victor or a conqueror places his foot on the threshold, those blind from birth, those whose ears do not hear, the protectorless and those with small merit, all of these gain eyes and ears.
Oh yeah. 우장 삼장남라니 매력하나 양다중 제도 대신도 편발라 맞대봐. 네 편발된 발라 맞대봐. 랑경랑게 중에 아니 우장 야와의 야와 남지 내지 띵도 จึ 첨부로 민면지 풍보단 자신 야와의 이초발라 안래 차지 초 로심시 시와 파베 야의 몇봉 시월 샤와 시월 셰베 야와 남은 동아단 찬에 강기 뒤 동아 10월 체 냠도 선바나 상제지구 천배제와 통에 대례 대비 뒤 아니니 대박이 뒤 야위 동아 시신 타바차진지 겨와 줄라 제배 우장 아니 우종 친자장 섬전라 내가 당 타두기 아니 멘비 려코나 양다바 주나 멘라 코나 양다 중 세대면 주나 최대발을 제배 판도바 다시메
So this points out that even the breath, the respiration of a Buddha, which flows naturally without depending on any intention, any impulse of the Buddha, forms a huge rain cloud above the hell realms, like a mound of eye ointment, which fascinates the hell beings. From it falls a delicious cooling rain, making the massive fire in the hells die down. Freed from their sufferings, the hell beings wonder whose power pacified it, whereupon they see the Buddha's body adorned with the major and minor marks. The force of their admiration stills the suffering of the hells and produces in their mind virtue concordant with the attainment of liberation. Thus, if even the breathing of a Buddha is exclusively for the temporary and ultimate welfare of sentient beings, what need is there to mention the benefits of their activities such as teaching? Those interested in their own well-being should have faith in and respect for the Buddha, the supramundane victor.
Oh yeah. 공부주의 shaji 우자만 타다 돌아 멤베 주주나 세다 다치 지바인 바래라 대나 달래서 편도바 따시면 대나 달래서 대바 남지 상제 좀 된데라 대지 그외 그거 차고 배나 실로 계지 개론 초간지 침도 이렇게 람비 안에 중앙 저와 따로 세다 이렇게 람바게 아니 리시 중앙 나시 저와나 요 시세와 나시를 송하려.
So thus, those who are interested in their own well-being should have faith in and respect for the Buddha, the supramundane victor, Bhagavan. And so an analogy of this is when there was a monk of the Parashara caste, and he stayed in a mechanic's house for the summer. And this is explained in Chandrakirti's commentary, which Ruth has inserted into her translation. We'll stop there for now.